What's going on, everyone? Matt here. I'm going to try to keep this short as I possibly can. I think we're going to go a little bit long, but bear with me here. Beautiful, beautiful Sunday morning. Was sipping some coffee. Kevin Durant got traded. He's now headed to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 overall pick, and 5 second-round picks. I don't know what years those second-round picks are, but that's not important. Just a quick, reaction about both teams. Good job by Houston. They were able to get a player of need. The Rockets were one of the worst half-court offenses in the entire league last year. They were able to get a player, Kevin Durant, who's still averaging 26 on 54, 43, 84 shooting splits. Still a hyper-efficient offensive player. He's not going to need to do as much as he did in Phoenix. Houston was able to keep not Jalen Green. They were able to keep Jabari Smith. They were able to keep Ahmed Thompson. They were able to keep Şengün. They still have flexibility to make other moves if necessary. This is a good move by them. For Phoenix, for a team that didn't really have any leverage because Kevin Durant is going to be 37 by this upcoming season. He's in the last year of his contract. They tried to lump him into trade talks at the deadline. That was a bad idea because it pissed him off, and they really didn't have any leverage from the get-go. Houston, like Miami, was one of the teams that was, consistently in the conversation for him. They were able to pull off that trade. I think, even though the Jalen Green thing is a little bit weird, which is a different discussion for a different day. I think they got a decent amount back. Like, they were able to get a top 10 pick. They were able to get, a handful of second round picks that they can consolidate in the future. So I'm very interested to see how they, progress with the rest of their offseason. How this impacts the Heat, Pat Riley, Kevin Durant has been someone he's targeted consistently for the past decade, over the past decade, however long it's been. On 2 or 3 different occasions. This is someone who he's wanted to have on the Heat. Obviously, this time around, it was more of a discounted price because Phoenix didn't have any leverage. I don't think they were going to be able to match the deal unless if they were able to include Khalil Ware or future first round picks, maybe a couple more young players. I don't know what the final offer is. I don't know if any of us will know what the final offer is. But Ware from the get go, just based on the reporting, was a sticking point. They wanted a center. Unfortunately for Phoenix, they weren't able to get a center in this trade, but that was a sticking point for the Heat. I was someone from the get-go that I don't think that they should have been targeting Kevin Durant anyway from the jump. Not because I dislike Kevin, the player or the person, but just because this team, they need to go in a different direction because, they won 37 games last year. They were embarrassed in the playoffs by Cleveland. I don't even think the East is as wide open as people claim it to be, but I just don't think with Kevin Durant, they would have limited their flexibility for what they could have done after the fact, and I think what they would have done after the fact would have held just as much weight as acquiring Kevin Durant himself. And for a 37-year-old player in the final year of his contract, I just didn't think it was necessarily worth it, even though I was under the impression that they were going to extend him, just based on some of the reporting that's out there. But now the Heat have to have an actual plan. And I'm not saying a plan of trading for an aging star. Like, I'm not saying getting, DeMar DeRozan, for example, or Drew Holiday, as much as I like Drew as a player. If they were somehow able to finagle that from Boston, I don't think that's likely, but they need to have an actual plan, and the plan should be, not saying this is what it will be, but it should be investing in the youth. Like, you can't look me in the eye and say over the last however many seasons that they really invested in their youth. Obviously, I'm not going to say they have a great collection of young players. It's not the worst in the league, but it's certainly not the best in the league. There's, Nikola Jovic, Khalil Ware, obviously, who I just mentioned earlier, Jaime Jaquez, Pella Larson, Kashad Johnson. Isaiah Stevens was on a 2-way contract last year, and I was hoping he was able to get some run during the season. He didn't, but they need this is now the perfect time in this build, for the past, 5.5, 6 seasons with Jimmy. It was compete. And obviously I thought that was the right call. And we can talk all day about what moves they should have made to add more help to Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero at the time, what it would have cost, this, that, the other. But now is the perfect time, now that Jimmy is no longer with the Heat, and now that they're transitioning into this new phase. is to really invest in their youth and try to collect assets. Like, they still have players of value on contract, and I think Tyler Hero should be someone who is potentially on the table. You just have to explore the market, because obviously I'm not in the room. I can't tell you what the market would look like for Tyler Hero. I can't tell you what the market would look like for Bam Adebayo. I could speculate. I can't tell you what it would look like for Andrew Wiggins, Duncan Robinson, Terry Rozier, who had one of the worst seasons of his career this last year. Um, I can't tell you, what that looks like for them. But what I can tell you is, for several years, it was always about the Heat not having enough. Whether it was not enough for this, not enough for that, they didn't have enough to make it over the top. They didn't have enough to acquire superstar talent to put alongside Jimmy and Bam. Like, they didn't have enough. And this is another example of them not having enough, even though I thought this was the right call for them not to have enough. But now it's time to get enough. Now it's time to collect assets, explore the market, invest in your youth, get a point guard that can maximize Ware, get a point guard that can maximize Jovic, Jaquez, in addition to, the other players on the team. Really invest in your youth, get players to maximize your skill sets. Remember, Jaime Jaquez Jr. is going to be extension eligible next offseason. Nikola Jovic is extension eligible right now, and he's entering the last year of his rookie contract. Kel'el Ware obviously has 3 more years left on his rookie contract, but you still need to invest in your youth and maximize their potential and potentially build them up, just in case if you want to consolidate them, if you don't want to extend them. Tyler Hero, again, someone who has improved little by little each year of his career. And obviously, this last season was the biggest year-to-year growth of his career, but now is the time to potentially explore the market for him in a trade. We just saw Desmond Bane get 4 first-round picks. I'm not saying Tyler Hero would get that, but you need to have a plan, especially if you don't want to pay Tyler, $40-50 million a year. He'll be extension eligible in October. He'll be eligible for, I think, a 3-year, $150 million contract that goes to $4,207 next year, potentially a supermax if he makes an All-NBA team. Like, if you're not going to pay him, and I personally wouldn't, you have to explore the market for him. You have to explore the market for all of these guys. You have to find a way to obtain assets, like trading a second-round pick in P.J. Tucker for Davion Mitchell at the deadline to complete that Jimmy Butler 5-team trade. Those are the moves that the Heat should be making. And obviously, Davion Mitchell, they still have to re-sign Davion Mitchell. Like, those are the types of moves that they should be making. They should be collecting assets. They should be investing in their youth. They should be doing all the steps necessary in order to build this back up into a potential contender. Because what if someone asks out in 2 or 3 years? Maybe not like a superstar talent, maybe not a top 10, 15 player, but we've seen around the league that teams are willing to trade players to duck the second apron. Or if a team becomes a second apron team for 2 or 3 years, they're trading their second, third best players away. Why can't the Heat be in that mix in 2 or 3 years and potentially maximize Bam Adebayo's prime, or the latter stages of his prime when he enters his early 30s? Even though right now I'm advocating for a plan that wouldn't maximize right now, but I think it maximizes their long-term future. And I just think that's the move that they should be making. Do I think they're going to be making it? Probably not, but they need to have a plan. They need to have a direction. The team is currently directionless in what they're trying to do. And again, now is the most perfect time to do it, now that you don't have Jimmy Butler, now that you're far away from competing. And this is the time to collect assets, invest in your youth, build players' value up, and then see what you can get for them, and just try to collect assets and make this thing worthwhile. I'm not saying blow it up to smithereens. That could be a plan, but I'm not necessarily advocating for them to trade, Bam Adebayo or whatever the case is. I mean, that's obviously, if you really want to go into a full rebuild, that's a plan that you can have, but it's now time to collect assets, invest in your youth, explore the market for some of these guys, buy low on players that have, some value that can, fit the context that you're in, get a point guard, address movement shooting, address point of attack defense, all that stuff. These are the things that the Heat should be doing, not acquiring an aging star for the love of God. That should just be like that would be a nonsensical plan. That would be, a desperate plan. Almost acquiring Kevin Durant was a nonsensical, desperate, reprehensible decision, despite Kevin Durant being as good as he is. But now you have to have a plan. Now you have to have a direction. And currently the Heat don't have that. So now it's time to get cracking.